Hi everyone, Alon Litz here. Really excited to have Juliette Denny with me. She's the founder of Growth Engineering and Zavmo.ai. Really unbelievable career and background, which we spoke about and we will speak about. Very excited for the audience to get to know Juliette and hear more about what she's building today. So with that, Juliette, welcome.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Awesome. So firstly, there's a lot that you can share from L&D perspective, from an HR perspective more broadly, but I think firstly your story is inspirational as a founder. So we'd love for you to share a bit of your background, a bit about like who is Juliette and how did you land up here today?
Well, I mean, I'm obviously an old lady, so it's a long time ago in the annals of time. Okay, in the annals of time. So yeah, I think probably the best place to start is the fact that I am dyslexic, and that's had a profound effect on my life, but also I think my ambition. Being a dyslexic child, I really struggled with learning, and I'm super bright. So when I was being diagnosed as dyslexic at about, sort of 7 years old or something, it was very clear that I had an incredibly high IQ, for my age. But I just couldn't learn. It was like the words were sort of moving all over the page. It was a real nightmare. So being, a highly functional sort of individual, what did I do? I did the next best thing, played up and got chucked out of school. So my educational experience had a really profound effect on, what my career has now turned out to be. Cycle forward, I was lucky enough to, get a degree and then also, do my master's at Harvard. So it all worked out in the end. But that experience of being locked out of learning, I think has had a formative experience on what I now do. So in terms of, the business that, is very successful, Growth Engineering, we are a learning management platform. Our clients include people like HP, L'Oreal, Apple, Cisco. These are the types of large enterprise clients that we serve. And our focus is very much on gamification. So using gamification and gaming mechanics in order to get people engaged in their corporate learning. So that company I started 20 years ago when I came back from the US after being lucky enough to be involved in the dot-com boom and bust, which was amazing. It was amazing. I mean, it really was. It was amazing going into, Fair Market, which was the company I worked for, and everything was like free breakfast, baseball hats, Herman chairs, all of that kind of stuff. And then the next day the money ran out and bosh, everyone was just, 300 people laid off without really any notice whatsoever. So it was literally the boom and the bust. But yeah, fantastic learning experience, and I just love the idea that you could create software in the cloud or, hosted back then as it was on-prem, they used to call it. But the fact that you could update the platform in real time in order to respond to customer changes. So I was really clear when I got back to the UK that I wanted to have a SaaS platform. I wanted to build a SaaS company. And I count myself very lucky, and I'm very proud to say that, what is my functional skill? My functional skills, I'm a salesperson. I love talking to people. I love finding out what their problems are, and I love trying to build solutions in line with that. But it very much always starts with, have you got a kind of salesperson mentality? I'm a big believer that, building products that don't have sales, that's just a hobby. A business is a business that makes enough money to cover all its costs and then throw off a profit. So I'm very, we've always been funded by sales. We've never been venture backed. Now maybe that is because I'm a woman, and quite frankly I was having babies at the time, so they would have fired me anyway. But very happy with that journey. We made it. We celebrated our 20th year.
Amazing.
At the beginning of this year. Thank you. But then, of course, like all wonderful adventures, so Growth Engineering is still trading, is still doing a great job and being run by my wonderful and fantastic management team. But I decided about 18 months ago that my passion, my burning passion, was in AI, and I wanted to do something, game-changing, revolutionary. And so that's when I started Iridescent Technology, and that has what, I guess, brought me to, where I am now.
Awesome. But, there's so much there, and I do want to speak about the future and what you've been working on. But I think you've touched on a lot, and it's almost like everything that's happened so far has led you to this point. And maybe just starting off with your experience being neurodiverse with dyslexia, right? How did you, learn, right? Because as you say, the system wasn't built for people who learn the way that you do. So how did you overcome that as a challenge?
I think it's such a good question, and it's one of those things that I thought about a lot. How do I get myself into a safe learning environment so that I can actually learn? Because at the moment I'm paralyzed by fear. Every time I look at something, I'm lacking the confidence to actually move through the sentence, the letters, the meaning, the whatever it is. So what I ended up doing is basically just very, 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 very quietly going off and finding things that I was really interested in, and through those things that I was really interested in, chipping away at some of the basic skills that I never managed to capture, like reading and writing. So although it sounds ridiculous to say this, I'm going to say it anyway. I was pursuing a liberal arts degree at Harvard. And so I was able to choose my own, courses essentially that make up the master's degree. And I focused on things that I was really passionately curious about. And because I was so curious about them, I would go to the library, and when somebody would skim read through, a page or 2 pages or whatever, it would take me, hours and hours. But I
so
did
just
it.
Fueled by passion,
just
really.
Fueled by passion. That's exactly it. And I think then sometimes, you end up getting that success, little and often. But, I think the whole theory of learning, that is really what I'm passionate about. So when people say, well, what do you do within your organization? My focus is the theory of learning, the science behind, neuroplasticity, how we learn. All of those things are the things that I am really interested in. And then I obviously download that to, engineering and technology in order to say, right, I'm pretty convinced we can build this with, AI or SaaS or whatever it is.
So there's that one component, which is you as an individual and taking your own experience and applying that to technology. Then there's your experience as a salesperson, right? If you can't sell the product, it's a hobby. I love that. It's not a business. So you've practiced that, and I think another area where you've had a lot of success with growth engineering has been on gamification.
Yeah.
Right, and in a lot of ways being ahead of the curve. I think gamification is something you hear a lot about today, but 20 years ago, not the case.
No.
Right, so how were you ahead of the curve when it came to gamification? What were some of the initiatives that you rolled out to really drive the engagement with the platforms that you were building?
I think one of the things that we've been able to do really, really well is work in real close partnership with our clients. So typically our clients come to us, they find us, so we don't have like an aggressive sales team or anything like that. We just, blog and vlog and tell people what we're interested in and the problems that we're trying to solve. So typically our customers will come to us. They've tried other learning platforms, they've tried other experiences, and it's just boring, it's just cookie cutter. And so, one of the first people we started to work for was Cisco. Cisco had a real problem with training up their global sales teams. And so that was really one of the kind of seminal, and what we did is we documented the entire program. So it was kind of based on this idea of a continual themed game where we would do the Olympics, we would do, racing, we would do this, we would do that, and we would basically match the learning to XP, to different levels, and so we documented, that journey, we documented that rollout, and then the awards just started coming in, and then we got more clients, and again we documented that process. So the amount of awards we've won with L'Oreal is just crazy. It's something like 40 global awards. Oh, wow. From different areas of their business. And I think that's been a key part to our success, really close collaboration with our clients in order to understand their needs so that we can shape the epic meaning all the way down through the gamification, so that it's much more like the way you would go to market with a marketing strategy rather than, you know, an L&D strategy. So making sure things look beautiful, making sure things inspire, you know, exploration, they promote curiosity, they're curated in a kind of storytelling way, and all of these things have sort of come together to, yeah, allow us to deliver some really exceptional results. I mean, on our platform now, people are generally in our platform for about 20 minutes a day,
Oh, wow.
which is crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, but yeah, I think it is collaboration. It's collaboration.
So it's not
and
a one
openness.
size fits all with your
Oh,
clients.
goodness gracious, no. We take a lot of care to really understand what they're trying to do, and to help them beat their own expectations. So yeah, it's not, we're still selling a SaaS platform, and that's where our revenue comes from, but the setup and the story around the rollout and the delivery of content is very, very, very much focused on a more kind of consultative, upskilling kind of process of their L&D in order to understand, you know, how you can inspire and delight curiosity.
Awesome. So I guess you're now at this, you know, next chapter, right? So overnight success, 20 years in the making.
Exactly. I love that. Yeah. So true.
And you're now kind of taking this learning experience to the next level, right? Because part of the power of generative AI, something that you speak a lot about, is this power of individualization.
Yep.
So, you know, what does that look like, right? I think like that sounds grand, but what does that look like in practice?
So when AI came out, I, you know, started exploring and started using, you know, ChatGPT and Gemini, and more recently I use Claude, which I really, really love. And then I started thinking about what would be the most ideal learning experience for every single kind of individual on the planet. And from that, I came up with this idea called the 4Ds, okay? So the 4Ds very much mirrors how we start the learning process. So in order to start the learning process, we need to be attentive, okay? So we need to have a high degree of attention in what we're doing. We need to be inspired, and we need to do active engagement. So we need to be actively participating in the learning process. Then we need to trial and practice, you know, those skills so that they're moving from short-term memory to long-term memory. And then we need to consolidate that learning so that it is easy to us to understand how we can make connections between things that we already know in order to innovate and inspire and go on. So having an understanding of what it takes to learn something successful, I was like, right, what is a really simple way of describing that to L&D? And so what I came up with is, first of all, sometimes we don't know what we don't know. But through conversation, we can find out potentially what our strengths and weaknesses are and what we should be focusing on for our roles and for, you know, the way we would ideally like to design our life. So the first D is discovery. So this is basically where you are having an interactive conversation with Zavmo AI. So this is the platform that we've created. And the goal of Zavmo AI is to explore you, is to explore your ambitions, is to explore where your skill set currently resides, is to explore where you think you have weaknesses, and is basically to sort of benchmark where you are and where you want to go, okay? Now, what's really important about the discovery phase is that a lot of skills that people are taught and a lot of skills that people pick up are not necessarily rewarded. And so what we want to do, or what we have done with Zavmo, is benchmark that against national standards and national qualifications. So at the end of the discovery phase, Zavmo will have an understanding of where you are in your career, where you want to go in your career, what neurodiversity needs you have, how successful you've been in learning and what your attitude is to your own personal development, and also your hobbies and interests, okay? And that will later become important. Then once we've finished the discovery phase.
I don't want to throw off your train, but I just want to highlight your sales experience there, that everything starts with discovery, right?
Yeah.
Before you can sell the product.
Exactly.
You need to understand the needs.
Exactly, yeah. And then what we want to do is we want to build commitment.
Yes.
Okay? So learning is hard. Learning requires you to make a commitment. Learning requires you to be invested. Okay? So what Zavmo is then going to do is present you with a whole load of options, and it's very clear where those credits come from. So what awarding body will credit that qualification, how long it will take you, a description of the learning objectives and learning outcomes, and then you will get to choose to make that commitment to your development, okay? And you will then, in that discussion phase, you'll be talking about when you want to learn, how long you want to learn, yada, yada, yada. So this is the commitment / habit forming. Can we get you to acknowledge that if you want your life to move forward and you want it to move forward aligned to the art of what's possible once you know this, you just have to be committed. So then what the learner does, they said, yeah, I'm happy with that. I'm going to make that commitment. I'm committed. I am committed. Okay? So that is then the discussion phase. Then what we do is we move on to the delivery phase. Now, unlike the one-to-many model, okay, so the one-to-many model is something we're very familiar with because we've been in it in school and university. So you've got one teacher and you've got many people. You've got one piece of e-learning that's been developed for hundreds of people. You've got one video that everybody sees. And what we're trying to do is make it fundamentally different. So when Zavmo is delivering the learning objectives, what Zavmo is doing is saying, okay, so we're doing maths GCSE, or we're doing, I don't know, aeronautical engineering. You've said that, you want to do it, but, you don't have maybe some confidence in it or whatever it might be. What we're going to do is we're going to intertwine your hobbies, your interests, your values, and we're going to intertwine that with how we deliver maths problems. So if I think about my son, for example, he is, again, really bright like me, but could he get his head wrapped around maths? No, he couldn't. If we could combine maths with surfing or motorbikes, he would have no problem picking up these stuff. So this is what's happening during delivery, okay? And what we're doing at this point is delivering in line with the learning objectives set out by the national standards, but we're also ensuring that because it's conversation, okay, it's much more like being coached, because it's small, bite-sized pieces of information that you're being asked to think about, and then, exactly. So then once we've gone through the delivery stage, we then go on to the demonstration stage. Now, one of the things that we have known about the learning process, and this is laid out really well in Bloom's taxonomy. So if you're somebody that's familiar with, like, all teachers, all learning pedagogy specialists will know Bloom's taxonomy. What it teaches us is that when you are in receive mode, you're actually pretty bored. Your attention is really difficult to keep it going. But when you're in the how do I use this information? Like, how do I analyze it? How do I evaluate it? How do I build on it? How do I connect one idea to the next? This is exciting. Putting knowledge into action is where the brain starts firing off in all different directions. And so the demonstration is the part of the learning process that learners really enjoy. So this is taking what you've been delivered and applying it through case studies. So I want to give you this example of a scenario you might find in work. How would you use your skills in this area? How would you apply it? How would you evaluate this response from a colleague? How would you, yada, yada, yada. So that is the 4Ds. So the only way to deliver the 4Ds, the only way you can deliver the 4Ds is through AI. So you can't deliver the 4Ds in any other way. And so, that was really when I was like, what, we need to get under the hood of, what's going on in AI, and we really need to understand it. And that then, it just blew my mind how wonderfully elegant and akin to the way the human brain works. I mean, this is what is so magical, I think, about AI, is, the neural networks work in very, very similar ways as the way the brain works. The error feedback, it works very, very similar the way the human brain works. And so it's just a very, very elegant solution for basically upskilling a human, because, we built it in line with the way our brain works. And what we've got to do is get AI to start helping us improve and grow and all of those kind of things.
So AI is a superpower, right?
It is a companion. So the way I see AI is very much like, I would like to see that Zavmo AI would be your learning companion for life. Because the more you interact and the more you tell it about what your interests are and where you want to go in your career, and whether it's traveling the world, being a gardener, solving specialist crimes, it doesn't matter. What we're trying to do is increase your neuroplasticity. If you're sitting in a call center and you decide that you want to take qualification in how to solve serious crimes, just because that's what you want to do, that is great for your brain. That is great for your brain. If your brain is making connections, sparking off, promoting curiosity, I don't care what you learn. Obviously the companies are going to want you to learn certain things, but the idea here is not that you need to learn things that you don't want to learn. You can learn anything you want. You just need to have that learning experience in line with, your own cognitive abilities and load. Because the problem is, a lot of learning, you start the learning process and you get cognitive load and your brain stops working, and it's just not an enjoyable experience. So what we need to do is reframe the process of learning so that people enjoy it. Now, a learning companion is very, very different than an educator, or a learning companion, an AI learning companion is there to help you learn whatever you want to learn in a way that however you want to learn it. It is not, you're not going to school. You're not going to school. You're exploring your passions, your interests, and you're basically having that delivered to you in a way that works for you, around you, and in a way that, can respond to the things that are changing in your life.
So, super interesting, super exciting. And I know the product's evolving. But how is that going to be delivered? And maybe when you answer that, how's it going to be delivered today? And how do you see that evolving as you learn more, as your technology improves?
So I think we're going to deliver it in two ways. First of all, we're going to have a business to consumer offering. So if you go to zavmo.ai, you'll come to a website, you will have a chat with Little Zav, and Little Zav is basically super friendly, and it will talk to you about, why you're here. Why have you turned up on the website? What interests you about Zavmo AI? What kind of things are you interested in? Da. So it'll have a nice chat with you. It'll explain the 4D process. It will explain everything that you're going through. It will show you example content. It will basically just answer any questions you've got. Then you have a paywall, and then, there'll be a subscription. And so you'll pay your money, you'll go through, the 4D process, and just keep in that 4D process for as long as you've selected, the course. What we'd like to think is, because this is really personal, it's not going to be something that people, so it will be subscription based, and it'll just be a small monthly fee, and people will basically use it to, throughout their entire lives. So that would be, the ideal.
Continuous learning.
But continuous learning, yeah. It's not about going in and getting one thing. It's about continuous growth and development. And then on the corporate side, what we're looking at is basically putting it in. So we've got our first, pilot kickoff with a large energy provider in the UK. And what we're going to be looking at is seeing whether that actually works. So what we don't know is, if everybody in the organization is given a personal coach, will they learn more? Like, how many people are really happy in their jobs and roles? How many people would like to see a future where they went from a call center person to a digital expert, or a telecoms engineer, or we just don't know. And so the commercial application for that is going to be interesting, because we might find that people are on there for hours, or we might find people are like, what, I just really don't want to be coached. It's just not, we just don't know. So yeah, what I do know is that the past learning technologies kind of infrastructure is SaaS based. It is SaaS. I mean, growth engineering is a SaaS based company. We get paid on the number of users that are using our platform. But the future is AI first with, you will still need a kind of SaaS backend to a certain extent, but the interface will be an AI first conversational interface, and the amount of admin and the amount of, will be, very much reduced. So I think there's lots of changes coming.
The possibility is just so much higher, right?
Oh, I think so. I think so.
Super exciting. So just side question, why Zavmo?
Oh, you're going to love that story, okay? So I am lucky enough to have two natural born sons. One is called Cosmo,
okay,
and one is called Zavi.
Okay.
So what we did is we put the two together and we've got Zavmo.
Okay, awesome.
We did try a couple of things before that. So we had things like Aristotle and da-da-da-da-da. But of course some raider had been to the AI, domain and just, got all of those. So, but actually I think we're really happy with
it's great. It's very AI.
Yeah, it's very, very cool. And also the other thing is I should say is that my kind of co-founder on all of this is actually my son, so Cosmo. So he is he's one of the lead AI engineers behind all of this. So he was at the University of Tokyo, and he's 20 years old. And we started, discussing the 4D process and what I wanted to do with, iridescent technology, which is the company that Zavmo sits in. And he started working with me, and we started building up the product and doing prototypes and playing around with it. And then before I knew it, I got a call from my ex-husband to say, by the way, you do realise Cosmo's thinking of leaving university. And I was like, well, I'm always the last to know. I mean, the mother always is, right? But if that is his passion, if that's what he wants to do, then, it's just wonderful to have so much kind of young energy and enthusiasm,
That's
to be
amazing. That's a great story. Well, awesome. I think we covered so much. Really loved the conversation. I'm sure everyone enjoyed this and learned, firstly, like just the inspiration behind your story as an entrepreneur, and that sometimes the dots connect looking backwards, but not always at the time. And everything in your career has really led you to this point. And then just about, the future of learning, right? And the power that technologies like Zavmo are going to unlock. And I think the future's bright, and really excited to see what you create with Zavmo and with Cosmo. And I'm sure Zavi will be joining you soon.
Yes, I think you will.
And thanks so much, really loved it. So thank you for those who joined, and thanks for joining me here today, Juliette.
It's a pleasure. Thank you very much for having me on. I appreciate it.
Awesome, thank you.